But you have the honor of being my very last person here. I have with me here Christine Carmichael. You prefer Christine?
That's right,
Cool.
yes.
She is the Market Segment Director of Government and Education at Tableau. Another Tableau employee can give us the lowdown on everything that's going there. If you could, maybe just tell us what your role is, what that means on a day-to-day basis, and why you love working for the company.
So I am the Director of Industry Marketing for both government and education.
Cool.
And as such, I have responsibility at the company for working with the senior leaders in the public sector and education group to help drive go-to-market strategy.
Cool.
And messaging. And I also give feedback from our customers back into development in terms of what we need to do with the product. And I am the voice of education and marketing to the market.
Fantastic. So this seems like it's a very nascent space. I just had, I forgot his name, up from Des Moines Public Education System,
Yep.
and he said, you know, he was in the lucky role of he was a trainer, and he wanted to move back to Des Moines, and they needed somebody at Tableau, and all the gears fit just perfect.
Yes.
But it seems like that would be a bit of a challenge. That like he had raised, they're already kind of stretched. At least, I don't know if do you mainly do K through 12, or is it?
So, great question. Higher education and K through 12. So that was Des Moines Public Schools that you head up. So
correct.
Which is K-12.
Right, right. And you guys are outreach and everything to all those branches, right?
Yes.
So what are the big challenges, especially in that younger space, and how are you guys working to get folks up to speed on those things?
Okay, so in the K-12 market, the name of the game is student achievement, and getting students to higher levels of academic achievement, and ultimately having them graduate. And most ultimately, hoping that they go on to higher education, right?
Sure.
Unfortunately, right now in the U.S., though, many of our K-12 public school systems are strapped budget-wise, and some of this is a little bit of a layover of the budget crisis that began back in 2008. But the K-12 is gradually coming back up to par with their budgets at this point, and they're looking to technologies like Tableau to help them drive student achievement, to have insight into how individual students are performing, and the classroom teachers are performing, and the school buildings and the districts are performing.
Fantastic. And is this something you guys are trying to put development behind and help templatize things for them, or help provide some kind of research center that they can come up to speed quicker?
So you know, the good news is that Tableau is not a product that requires templatization, right?
Sure.
We want to be able to put the technology in the hands of the people who know the data the best in K-12, and work with the data every single day, and give them a tool that they can easily utilize without heavy dependence on IT, right? So that's the name of the game.
Cool.
And so we are putting that technology in their hands. We're also working with the teaching classrooms, though, so that we can grow new Tableau users into the future. But yeah, that's what we're doing.
Fantastic. And I would imagine, and this was iterated by the gentleman from Des Moines as well, transparency is kind of something that these groups have pushed back on a little bit. Do you have any success stories or any advice to help folks in that role realize this is probably a good thing in the end? It's not, you know, I think we're all afraid. If nobody's ever looked over our shoulder before, we're afraid somebody's going to be looking over it all the time, and we're all so busy, most of us don't care, is what it comes down to. But
well, so let's break that apart a little bit, right?
Okay.
So first of all, in the K-12 market, whether you are a parent yourself, or obviously you have children in your lives somewhere, people are really passionate about kids, right? As taxpayers, we are very passionate about the next generation coming up. So as such, transparency is really the name of the game. Transparency is also important, though, in terms of getting everyone wrapped around that child to ensure their success. So what defines everyone? Everyone starts with the teacher in the classroom. It's the administrators in the building. It's the administrators of the school district. It's the parents, and it's the community. And the only way that you can bring those 5 players together is to make the data transparent, so that everyone who's playing a role in the growth and development of that child has the information that they need, so that they can intervene, they can interact, they can move that child in that classroom forward.
Very cool. And obviously, you know, you want to make sure, I don't want my daughter's data to be, you know, hacked and everything.
Yes.
There's got to be very, very tight controls around this. Do you have some examples of some maybe very sensitive data that folks have shared with Tableau in the government or in the education space?
So typically when you're talking about sensitive data, you're talking about academic performance of the individual child, right?
Sure. Or whether how many days they've missed or various
or
things.
disciplinary information and that sort of thing. And so there is some sensitivity around that. So typically what school districts and private K-12 and charter schools too, they're really no different in terms of their missions, right?
Got it.
It's all about the academic performance of the child. But typically what these customers of Tableau want to do is to be able to look at the data and put it in the hands of the people that it's most appropriate for. So there is some sensitivity and some security around that. I mean, obviously you're not going to put academic performance data about individual children in the newspapers, right?
Sure.
But what you will put in the newspapers, or what you will share with the district and with the state, is the overall academic performance of that school building or of that district. And the public does have a right to have that information,
Absolutely.
right?
Cool.
So,
and we've been talking about education. I'm sorry, my brain was going. But you do government as well. So what are some of the common government, some of the data types that you find in government that they're trying to move into Tableau and they're trying to visualize and help their people understand on a more real-time basis?
Well, first of all, let's make the tie from education to government, right?
Sure.
We've been talking about education.
Sure.
So if you look at K-12 public school districts, those are government organizations, right? And
Sure.
and fortunately, about 30 cents of every taxpayer dollar in a state goes toward K-12 education.
Yep.
And governments are very, very passionate about that. In government, though, you've got lots of different departments with unique missions. You've got everything from healthcare, which is the #1 spend, by the way.
Okay.
But everything from healthcare, you've got public safety. At local areas, you've got departments of public works, Veterans Administration. I mean, the list just goes on and on. Every department has a unique mission.
Yep.
One of the other things I like to point out about government for people who don't work in it every day is that government actually represents just about every other industry. If you stop and think about it, you've got manufacturing, you've got finance, you've got safety, and the list just goes on and on. So government's very unique in terms of its missions. Government's also unique, though, in that it's all about us, and we want our data and information about us very protected. But we want to put that information in the hands of the right people at the right time to be able to actually act on it. So that's what Tableau helps governments do, is bring that data about citizen services forward so that they can review their programs and their program performance, the outcomes, and making sure that our dollars are being spent wisely.
Fantastic, love it. So what are there public examples? Like, what are some of the biggest customers that you've supported in government, and how did they use the product uniquely, and what did that do for them?
Okay, so gosh, I mean, in federal government, Tableau's found just about everywhere on both the federal civilian side as well as in DoD agencies too. So some of our largest customers are the U.S. Treasury Department and the departments underneath Treasury, Veterans Administration, the Navy, the Air Force. I've got, as a matter of fact,
the tendrils are everywhere.
The tentacles are everywhere, which is really exciting. It is really exciting. And as a matter of fact, we are going to be doing a government executive summit in D.C. for our federal audiences.
Excellent.
And our state local audiences too, at the Reagan Center on November the 19th. And very, very pleased with the lineup of customers that we've got. We've got great representation of federal civilian, federal DoD, as well as state and local government. So
very cool. Is this open to the public, or is
it
it government only?
It is government. I mean, right now it's government only because those, the government customers of Tableau and prospective customers of data visualization and analytics are the ones who are going to get the most out of this particular conference because they're hearing from customers. So
very, very cool.
Yeah.
And I love how you made that statement that everything that the government does is done in private industry as well. They can go back and read all the learnings from other folks that what they have done and how they did it, and then just change it for their compliance requirements that are unique to them.
Yeah,
Cool.
absolutely.
So being in that unique perspective that you've had, we had some really amazing keynote announcements today. What were some of the things that you could see the customers that you work with that you might think that they might be able to pull the most value out of?
So let's think about how government does business, right?
Okay.
So you and I, as well as everyone at this conference, we are all the customers
Yep.
of government, and as such, we have a certain responsibility in interacting with government and ensuring that our governments are serving us well. But we also have to participate in the work of government.
It's a big part that's missing right now.
Yes, we have a responsibility
Yeah.
to step up and do our parts and to
Sure.
work cooperatively with government to get the business of government done. Well, how do you do that? What you have to do is you have to give the citizens the information
Right.
at the right time. So today Tableau talked a lot about mobile technology and visible and and putting information on the tablet and on the iPhones that we're all walking around with. A perfect example is one of the customers that's here is the city of Boston.
Okay.
And they're actually speaking tomorrow.
Cool.
City of Boston is known as being a best practice, innovative kind of a city. They're very proud of that. Mayor Walsh is very proud of bringing the city of Boston into the data technology level, high levels of interacting with citizens and whatnot. And so one of the really creative things that they did a few years ago was create an app that if you and I were driving along the streets of Boston in the wintertime and huge potholes were in the road, our phones would be our GIS systems would be picking up those bumps
That
in the
is
road,
brilliant.
right? So feeding that information back to the city so that the city can go out and repair those potholes, but repair the ones that are getting the most traffic at any point in time.
Sure.
So being able to analyze that information and report on that information in technologies like Tableau and then serve up how we're serving the citizens is really exciting.
I love that. And the mobile, everything is
Yes,
going to the mobile
everything's
platform as
mobile.
well. Do you see
Yes.
that in the government as well? Are they, obviously that is a great example. I'm not sure if
Yeah.
that's an outlier or if that's something that everybody is picking up on, that
Yeah.
they're integrating more to the mobile. And
Absolutely. I mean, we're seeing mobile across the board in education as well, but state, local governments, federal governments. Mobility is important to everyone, and it's for a lot of different reasons. It's because of you and I, the dynamic that we talked about a few minutes ago. We are consumers of government. We are active participants. But you also have to think about the government workforce itself. These are not people that are, typically in their offices, right, working 8 hours a day.
Sure.
They're out in the community. They're out in the public. They're across the country getting their work done. And they have to have those tools in their hands to be able to act on the most immediate information.
that is fantastic. I love
yeah.
it. And something else that, as you were describing, a friend of mine always had this idea of why don't we just have an app that we could just vote where our tax dollars go, and you can see a day where the disintermediation of the government starts happening the same way that taxi companies here in Las Vegas are starting to go by the side, and you're connecting drivers up directly to individuals through Uber and stuff. Do you see any of that sort of happening, or is it still too early? I mean, I think it's going to happen. But in your travels, have you seen any of that sort of stuff where an organization maybe that wasn't providing good value could just, that those folks could be freed up to do something else because the customers got direct access to the data and the interface they needed?
Yeah, so yes, the answer to your question is yes, we are starting to see that in government a lot. But let me give you an example. The example is a little different than the scenario that you just described, but it's an example that I think that you're going to recognize and that's going to be important to you. So I'll use FEMA. Okay. So FEMA is a large Tableau customer.
Cool.
And in a state of an emergency, like Hurricane Sandy, for example, or the disasters, the flooding that happened in South Carolina just a few weeks ago, that's very personal to all of us around the country.
Absolutely.
When a disaster like that happens, and if you are living in that community, you want immediate response. You want immediate help. You may have lost your home. You may have family members that are out on the streets. You may not have water. You may not have food. I mean, these are dire situations.
Yep.
And you want to know when FEMA's going to be there to help you, right?
Yep.
You want to know when they're arriving. You want to know how to communicate with them. And most importantly, as the disaster is being cleaned up, and say a year from now, you want to be able to look to see how many dollars came into your community to help with those cleanup efforts.
Totally.
And exactly who was involved in the cleanup efforts. So that's the kind of communication and cooperation that we're seeing in government across the board. FEMA is a really good example of
Very
that.
cool,
that
and
is
I
passionate
love that
work.
example because we can't, you know, at the national level, at the federal level, we have no idea if $1 billion is something or if it's not. But yeah, when we can see it compared to other folks that got response, you get more, like you said, you get more transparency with that and all that. Do you think the government will be open to one day exposing that type of information? And if so, what are the hurdles between where we are and what we need to do to get there?
Okay. Well, I have to smile when I
Cool.
give you this answer.
Excellent. You're so prepared.
So I'm going to go back to the FEMA example,
Fantastic.
if you'll allow me. So your question is, when are they going to be open? And I'm going to answer you right now. In fact, go out to the FEMA.gov website.
Okay.
Go to FEMA.gov, and you will see Tableau in action right there on their open data website.
Oh, really?
And you can go into maps, and you can look at your community, your county. You can drill down to
This is nationwide, right now.
Nationwide, right
Wow.
now, live right now. You can drill into your area of the country, and you can look at disasters across time, and you can look at how FEMA responded.
Kidding me. Holy cow. How long
Very
have they had
cool.
this active? That is amazing.
So they've been working on the site for a while. It has been in production for several months, though. But yeah, we're really excited, very proud of them for that.
That is very cool. And that's going to just, I mean, I'm sure it's going to mean a lot of other folks coming in with adoption and seeing that. And it's always the folks, you know, at the tip of the spear, they got to fight the hardest battle.
That's right.
And then everybody else can follow behind.
Yeah,
so.
they're kind of driving some of the best practices. But open government is pervasive, and it's been pervasive for several years now.
Cool.
Accountability, transparency. We want to be able to see how our taxpayer dollars are driving government missions, and we want to be able to see the outcomes of their missions. We even want to get down as citizens. We want to get down to program levels, budgeted program levels, and actually measure dollars against outcomes.
Absolutely.
And so,
this is very
that
cool.
they want that information. We want that information to be wide open in public, right?
Totally, and that's my next question because I had never obviously heard of the FEMA.gov thing where you can drill down and all that. Does Tableau have an area or some information where we can go learn of more government organizations and how they're spending our money and how we can get involved with that?
So the government, the government, how they spend their money is very open. It's the Freedom of Information Act, right?
Sure, but it's hard to access. That's
yes.
the thing.
Well, it is. It is hard to access, and Tableau is helping with some of that, ability to access and assess that information.
Yep.
But yeah, governments are moving in that direction most definitely, and technologies like ours are helping.
Cool. So what resources do you think I could follow on to learn about more projects like this that are very easy to use, make the data extremely accessible, and I don't have to, download a bunch of CSV files and then try to, I mean, you guys just, with the government example right here, it's exactly what we were talking about in the keynote this morning. You've got all this dead data in spreadsheets.
Yes.
How can we learn about more government organizations that are integrating visualizations and stuff?
Okay.
Do you have any idea?
Well, so one of the first places to go is to the Tableau website, right?
Cool.
To go to our government industry website and our education industry websites and get an idea of what we're doing in government and education.
Cool.
In our industry websites, you'll have an opportunity to see a number of customer case studies and videos and customer stories of events like this where we've got a plethora of customers that are speaking on our behalf.
Very cool.
Those videos are going to be out there as well. But in addition, one of the things that you're going to see out there in our stories are some of those public, like FEMA.gov websites and things like that. Those
beautiful.
public sites that are sitting out there with Tableau, data visualization, performance dashboards all over the place.
I am absolutely going to go play on the FEMA.gov
I
site,
hope
which
you
is
will.
something I never thought those words would come out of my mouth, but all of a sudden they did.
I hope you will. You have a
Fantastic.
right to. You're a citizen, right?
I do.
You do.
Christine Carmichael, thank you so much for
Thank
taking
you.
time out of your busy schedule,
Thank you.
coming to talk with us, and we hope to see. Do you have any presentations or anything you'd like to turn folks onto over the next couple days?
Sure, we've got several presentations, several pieces of literature and customer case studies and things like that we're happy to share.
Cool, fantastic.
So,
I hope
thank you.
some of our viewers can connect with you.
Thank you.
While they're here.
Thank you. Take
Thanks
care.
a bunch. Take
Bye-bye.
care.